everywhere, as I said in part of the show. Can Billy Napier prolong the obvious by upsetting Texas? Now, this presents a dilemma for Gator fans. Ambivalence. It can be overwhelming. I know two people right now who've just been overwhelmed with ambivalence for the last couple of weeks for various reasons. One of them very famous. I must admit, I have kind of a case of it myself, stuck in filing taxes. Ugh, the IRS. Finding myself staring at a page of numbers for what seems like an eternity, and I do hate this. I know I'm going to have to pay. Even our country seems so stuck, the government has shut down. And the MLB wildcard game until just now between the Yankees and Red Sox was stalemated 3-3 for a while, but now the Yankees have taken over in the ninth. I think they just about won it. Yes, they have. And they live to fight it again another day. So there'll be one more game in the wild card. And now this, the most anticipated game maybe ever at one time, the Swamp, most anticipated. But some Gators do not want Billy Napier to win for fear his job might be spared. Well, that's a mighty tall task, and that's a hard one to swallow. And I think even our guest tonight would agree. But let's see what Frank Frangie has to say. Coming back after this with Frank Frangie, Ali Peak Wilbur, and Kevin Brockway to talk about all this stuff on Ambivalent Wednesday.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
And welcome to the program. Let's get right to Frank and see where he stands. I don't know if you heard that whole opening or not. Frank Frangie, good evening. What an honor to have you back on the program. And we'll get to those Jags in just a minute. But right now, it's Ambivalent Wednesday. A lot of people are stuck, and some people are saying, I don't want the Gators to win because it prolongs the obvious. They want Billy gone. Where do you stand on all this, Frank?
Yeah, there's a lot of hats. As my hat as a Gator fan, I'm never going to want them not to win the game. When the game starts at 3:30 on Saturday, I'll be watching and hoping they win and hoping they play well, and agonizing when things go badly. But I get your point. They're in that real abyss right now, buddy, where it's just an uncomfortable area where you know the inevitable is probably that Billy Napier is going to get fired. I think most of us know that now. It's a matter of time. And if they win enough to keep him, to your point, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I get your point. And let me tell you the good thing about that. Who we're rooting for doesn't matter, right? It's not going to affect the game at all. So I'll watch the game and watch it play out. But it's a very uncomfortable spot for the players, for the coaches, for the fans, where you know you got a guy that's probably getting fired. I don't think there's much debate about that. You don't know when it's going to be. The schedule's brutal. The team's lost some key defensive guys, a lot of them really. The quarterback's really struggling. The offense is struggling. So it's probably a matter of time before it happens. But I hear you. I don't know as a Gator fan, and I am one, that I could ever root against them, buddy, no matter what.
It's just really almost impossible. And even if you did and the game got going, if they had a chance to win it, you'd find yourself out of your chair and, all right, come on. I mean, number one, Billy isn't a bad guy that I know of. I don't really know the man that well. Certainly, DJ Lagway's a guy I can root for anytime, any place. He's the kind of young man he apparently is. And you don't like to see a team get down. They've had some bad breaks. Some of them brought them by themselves. But I think the situation is now thinking about what this game was going to be, Frank. I mean, it was going to be massive, as big a game as ever played in the Swamp. And now it's down to this. I think I read today where the two quarterbacks, obviously Arch and DJ's ranked like 61st in the country in quarterbacks or something. It's ridiculous. And of course, Arch hasn't had the year he wanted to have, although he's playing better now. And here's the odd thing about it. Today, Billy just said, and I just picked it up off my friend's, I guess you can call it Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter still. That Billy said DJ had his best practice ever today, ever. Okay? It's like they're toying with us, Frank.
Yeah, I look. I'll say it again. It's an awkward spot to be in. I will tell you this: of the 130 teams that play college football, and I don't follow them all. I follow like you. I follow the ones around here. The biggest surprise to me in this football season, more than Vanderbilt winning all their games, more than Georgia losing the other day, more than the 3 or 4 coaches that have been fired already. The biggest surprise to me in this football season is how awful the Florida offense has been. That is. Listen, I know DJ Lagway didn't practice a lot, but this isn't about not practicing. The footwork, the off balance, the awful accuracy, the interceptions. Obviously, something's wrong. He's either not that good or not being coached well. That's the biggest surprise. Florida's defense is about what I thought they'd be. Their special teams are about what I thought they'd be. The opponents they've played are about what I thought they'd be. There's no surprises with anything there. The biggest surprise to me in this football season is how awful the Florida offense has been. And that's why he's going to get fired. But he's going to get fired because he stubbornly refuses to turn the offense over to anybody else. And he's going to call enough bad plays to get him fired. It's really that simple. You can oversimplify it. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, he made it pretty plain the other day when he was asked, and he had prepared to answer. It was long about why does he continue to call the plays? Because he's always done it. Basically, that's what he was saying. Not good enough. If you've ever been in an environment where you were starting over, as I was once or twice in the newspaper business, and I came in as the outside guy, the last thing I wanted to hear was, we've always done it that way. Well, it's wrong. Quit doing it that way. And he is committed. He says, I've always called the plays. Well, that's not good enough. That's another subject. I did hear something today. Actually, it was said over the weekend. DJ sounded like another version of a Promise 2. Now, you and I know that very well. It's up there on the side of the building, and we were witnessing to it when of course, it was made by another guy, number 15. And now this is what he said. He said, let me tell y'all something. We're going to get things changed for sure. I guarantee that. That was after losing to Miami 2 Saturdays ago. He said, this is unacceptable. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. But here's the deal. And he took ownership, which is great, as you know, up to Miami. I'm the head of it. I'm going to start with it. I'm going to demand greatness for everybody. We're done with the playing around stuff. It's time to get serious. Well, some people would say it was time to get serious a long time ago, but I love what the young man's trying to do. He's trying to get a reboot, right? And I don't know if you saw that or heard it or what you think about it.
Well, a lot of things. Yeah, I heard it. I mean, what else is he going to say? We're going to do better. And I think he should. He's a nice kid, buddy. There's no question he's a nice kid. And he's doing the best he can. I don't know if he's that good of a player or not. I want to go back to the play calling. And I just posted this on X because Zach Elbaverdi from On3 wrote a really interesting story about that. I read it right before I came on. And what it was really telling, and the story said, and I never thought about this, but Billy got fired at Clemson as a play caller. He went to Arizona State for 1 year as a play caller, and then the whole staff got fired. Before that, he was at Alabama when Kiffin got hired to FAU and thought he was going to get the play calling. Instead, Saban gave it to Steve Sarkisian, who had only been like a graduate assistant or an analyst. Billy got upset. Well, it hit me tonight, and I'm no psychologist, but buddy, it hit me tonight. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe he is. Every time he's had a chance to call plays, it's blown up in his face. And by God, he's going to prove to the world he can call plays. And he's going to prove to the world he can call plays. why he has so stubbornly refused to give it up when Mike Norvell gave it up and Ryan Day gave it up and Tony Elliott gave it up and all these other play callers. All these other play callers gave it up. He refused to give it up. And Lane Kiffin gave it up. Charlie Weiss Jr. calls the plays. So all these other play callers, his head coaches gave it up. And this dude is stubbornly sticking to it. He's been asked, he's been advised, he's been cajoled. People have pleaded with him to give it up, and he has stubbornly refused. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's because, by God, every time I get a play calling job, I get fired or I don't get it or I get passed over. Well, I'm the head coach. They can't pass me over now because I'll make myself. And maybe that's what this is. He's still trying to prove to the world he can do it. That's my read after reading Zach. And Zach did a great job on that story. And that's my read after reading.
Thanks so much to that. I agree with you. And this is what he's going to go down with. He's going to go down as the guy who's going to call the plays. Now, he's an old quarterback. Obviously, all old quarterbacks think they ought to call plays. But just for the heck of it, here's somebody who's been complaining about Billy calling the plays for quite some time. And she's right. And she's also been kind of holding his head. You know, Allie Peak Wilbur. Say hello to Frank Frangie. We're talking. I wanted to bring her aboard so she could join in on this. And I want to talk about the Jaguars too, Frank, a little bit, because what a season all of a sudden you got in front of you there. So we're talking now about Billy's play calling. Allie, we've discussed it all season. Yeah. And you and I have said he's trying to go down with it. Frank said he just read a Zach Abelverde's story, and that Billy's kind of been failed at this, and he's going to continue to keep doing it until they don't let him do it anymore, Allie. Is that what you think?
Yeah. I mean, so earlier this week, I'm going to try and pull it up right now on my phone. I was looking at the stats of him as an offensive play caller. And I honestly don't know that I realized it was actually quite as bad as it was, but he started calling plays at Arizona State in 2017. He had the number 37 offense in the country. Then he went to Louisiana, where he was the head coach. 2018, he had the 44th offense. 2019 got a little lucky at the number 8 offense, but if you look at his record, he basically beat up on a lot of teams and then lost to anybody with a pulse. 2020, number 43, 21, 64. Then he came to Florida, 37th ranked offense in 22, 46th in 23, 66th in 24, and currently sitting at 108. What are you fighting for? You've never been good at this. You've been middle of the road, mediocre at best. Like, he keeps thinking this is what got him head coaching jobs. And I almost think he got head coaching jobs despite this, not because of this.
You saw his comment, right, Frank?
Well, I did. And Allie, to your point, and I think you're dead on. So I saw this story that Zach wrote. I was telling Buddy this. It really kind of illuminated it for me. He gets to Clemson, and after 1 year, 2 years, he gets fired as a play caller. He gets to Alabama, and he's under Kiffin's the play caller for Saban. Kiffin gets the FAU job, and Billy thinks he's getting the play caller. Instead, he gives it to Sark, who had been an analyst. So Billy got pissed and took off for Arizona State, and then they got fired. And I think what it is he wants to prove to the world, by God, I'm a play caller, and I refuse to give it up because I'm going to prove to the world that all these people that fired me and passed me over were wrong. And I'm not a psychologist, Allie, but my read on this is maybe that's what this is. Maybe, by God, I'm going to prove to the world that I can call plays like and that's why I'm not giving it up, because I believe I can still do it. That's the only thing that makes sense. Yeah. And that everybody in the world's told him not to do it, and he keeps doing it.
I mean, I've asked this on the show for years at this point, but like, do you want to be a play caller or do you want to be a head coach? Because your desire to do one is about to cost you the other. And I honestly can't imagine if he loses this job where they want to hire him as an offensive coordinator, because it's not like he's got anything good he can put on his resume from his time here. And even if he was good at it, I think there's a lot of examples in college football where you can point to the head coach giving it up and immediately the team improving. I think it's too many hats in the NIL era for 99% of the world anyway. But this isn't something that you've ever been great at. And it's wild that there is zero ability to look in the mirror. I mean, he talks so much about accountability, but it's for everybody else but him, which doesn't jive with the rest of his personality that we've seen, right? We hear about how he's an incredible role model to these kids. He builds real relationships with them. He cares about them outside of football. He is a really good to work for. I've talked to people that work for him that say that he's an awesome boss. He's great to be around. He's fair. He's truthful. He's honest. He's all of these things, but he has to have an ego, because I don't understand the inability to try something different. You are currently going down with the ship. Why not try to throw yourself a life vest? I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, good point. And Frank, I don't want to go too long without talking about the Jaguars, but let me get to this point here. I think we're all getting to is the coach. And I know people say, well, just hire the right guy. Easier said than done. Mm-hmm. That reminds me when I covered an NBA team. They say, well, we get us a 7'6" center. They just start falling off the back of trucks. You know what I mean? They're not easy. I talked to a very famous former athletic director who was known for his great hiring of great coaches. And he says, people don't realize how hard it is to move some people. They just don't want to move. Maybe their kids in school loves what they're doing. Maybe they love the town. I remember Reverend Meyer told me one time, his wife, Shelley, when they were at Colorado State, she loved it out there. She was a psychiatric nurse, and he got the job offer to go to Notre Dame. And Shelley said to him, wouldn't it be a great job if we could just stay here? No, you can't do that when you're a nomadic wife like that. So here we go with this situation. My heart goes out to people who have to do this, what they get paid for. But my question becomes now, how far is this going to go? And Allie, I asked the question before we go on the air. In this year of ambivalence, for me, this week is all about just ambivalence. Everything is ambivalence. But, you know, can you really root against the Gators winning so they can fire Billy Napier or not?
I can't. I mean, I have told people all week, you fan however you want to fan. I can't tell you how to be a fan, but I am not the type of fan that can root against my team. I won't. I think the inevitable is the inevitable. So I'm rooting for these players and this team to win every single Saturday. And, you know, if they rip off 7 in a row, then I guess we have some decisions to make, right? Because even if they win 7 in a row, which I think ESPN has at like a 1.3% chance of happening, something ridiculous. But let's say it happens. You still have 4 years of a body of work that is losing to teams you shouldn't lose, not beating all of your rivals, and the best roster you've ever had being able to produce you max 8 wins with a lot of heartache to go around. So even if they rip off 7, I don't know that means that he keeps his job anyway. So I will be rooting for Florida to beat Texas and everyone else, and the cards will fall as they may.
I think.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I can't root against them. And the good thing is it doesn't matter who we root for. It's not going to affect it anyway. But I don't think there's any way he keeps his job. He's not running. He's not winning 7 in a row. He got a little bit of a bad break, how rugged the schedule is. But my guess is if you asked me if I was betting my money, I doubt he makes it to the Georgia game. I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's going to be this week. If they lose this week, and I think they're going to, I don't think it's going to be at 1-4. But I'll bet you it's in the next couple of weeks. I would be so, and I may be wrong. We'll see. When they get to Jacksonville, we'll find out. But I would be surprised if he makes it to Jacksonville. That's
in my mind, it happens after Texas A&M if they drop Texas and Texas A&M. I don't think with the Texas game, I just don't see a scenario where you fire a coach after he loses a game that you would have predicted in July that he was going to lose. I think that's hard. But I also think there's a great chance we see a ton of fight in this team. It's at home. It's a game that's been circled. But I also think that can crush dreams the next week when you go on the road to College Station. And
they might win. They may win this weekend.
I mean, it is possible. They might. And honestly, Texas looks a lot more beatable than they did in August before the season kicked off. And so maybe this is one that they snag. But if they don't, it might be a morale breaker, which then makes Texas A&M an incredibly difficult road trip.
We're all around the similar fan base, although they're different. And we talk to different people as our sources. I wonder if we might share what our best sources are telling us. I don't mean people who are just on, sending messages on message boards. People who actually talk to the people. who know the principles or have a real life connection. I don't claim to have many of those kind of friends, but I do have one.
You have,
and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. But here's the thing. If I said to you, what is the absolute best scenario, or how would you see the scenario playing out? I'll give you my opinion, but I want you guys to go first. Where's it going to land? Because we all know where all roads lead out to Oxford. But, Lane Kiffin may have other ideas. The guy I saw on TV and the piece I saw, which I saw again today, by the way, he said he wanted to be Steve Spurrier.
I was going to say, the guy I saw said he wanted to be Steve Spurrier today.
Yeah. But the point is that what he has said, and I love the line, I don't know how real it is, but it sure sounded real. Lane needed Oxford more than Oxford needed Lane. And if you saw that video, and I'm sure you all saw it, just the one shot around the table, okay? Around the table, the family, ex-wife, etc., kids are talking about like a family, which is what we all aspire to. Frank, I know you and Amber and you all have dinner table. It's important, and you too, Allie. You probably do with your 4 girls, etc. How many you got now? Maybe 5. I don't know. If you've adopted one or something. But the point is,
5,
I know. Yeah. So, but it is something in my house always was about that dinner table. It was almost not every night, but almost every night. And Frank, you knew my family, and it was almost sacred to be there. Now, I couldn't be there every night, but when I was home, I was. So my question to you is, how does this play out? You got $1 million in your pocket. You got to play in Vegas tonight. About where does Florida go from here? What happens? Who they wind up with? And I'm going to give you mine real quick. I have a money guy who knows money people. He's legit. He says their number one play is Urban Meyer, and that they want Urban, and they have funds to do it with, and they have plenty of money to give for NIL, and have him come here and fix it, and then pick the next coach. That's what the talk is among the money people. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. Do I think it's the best thinking? Not necessarily, because I think Urban. You know Urban. I think it'd be a mistake for him to come back into coaching. But if they don't get him, where do you go? Well, the number one choice of the fans is Lane Kiffin. They all want Lane Kiffin. They're going to be unhappy as they get. Now, what I'm seeing is I don't see that happening yet. So I'm saying, find me somebody else. And who is that somebody else? That's who I'm going to land on. It might be someone like Eli Drinkwitz. Frank, you go.
All right. Let me unpack a lot of what you said. You said what our connections are telling us. My connection tells me that Allie's got pretty good connections, because I'd keep an eye after that Texas A&M game. I would keep an eye. If Florida loses Saturday, Allie, to your point, I would keep a real eye on what happens between A&M and Mississippi State. That's what I would keep an eye on. And so that's what I would keep an eye on. Let's assume it happens. I think now, and I've told this story in my era too, Allie, and Buddy and I've talked about this. When Steve Spurrier was going to be the Florida coach, I covered that story. Buddy and I were both in the newspaper business. It was before the broadcast stuff came around, right? And in the mid 80s, they talked about Spurrier being the Florida coach. Well, but he didn't have enough experience. He hadn't been a head coach. So he got the Tampa Bay Bandits job, and he did that 2 years. Is he ready now? Well, he hadn't been a college coach. So he got the Duke job. Well, he just got there. Well, he won the ACC. It had to be time, right? It had to be time, even though they'd been talking about Spurrier to Florida for a long time. Well, in 89, 90, it was time, and he got the job. I think Kiffin's in the same spot. No, he didn't play there. But it wasn't time before. He had to deal with his drinking, which he talked about. He had to deal with his social life. He had to become a more mature coach. I think it's now time, buddy. I would be shocked if Lane Kiffin is a selection 1, 2, or 3. I don't know how Scott Strickland feels about him, but I would be. There's so much noise with Kiffin now. And by the way, I think Kiffin would ride a scooter to come take that Florida job. I don't think there's a chance he stays in Oxford if Florida offers him the job. I think there's so much attention given to Lane Kiffin. I can't imagine that he's not candidate 1, 2, and 3. If it's not him, to your point, it's got to be. I don't see Urban coming back. I don't know that. That would surprise me. I think it's a guy with edge. I think Drink's got a little edge to him. I think Kenny Dillingham in Arizona State's got a little edge to him. We've hired enough nice guys. I think it's got to be a guy with edge. So I think Lane Kiffin, if I was betting my money, I think Lane Kiffin's going to be the next Florida coach. I know I'm taking the chalk there, but that's what I'm thinking. If you're asking my opinion, and I hope it is Lane. If it's not Lane, I'll take Dillingham or Drink or someone who's not afraid to piss people off, someone who's not afraid to have a little edge. So that's where I think they'll go. That's my pick.
All right, a couple things here. First of all, I think Urban has told us, 87 different ways that the ship has sailed for him coming back. I think college football is a different world than when he was coaching. I think he would not enjoy some of the NIL aspects of it. I think some of what made Urban such a good coach was his psychological edge that I don't know exists in the same way when your players are making as much money as they are making and they can just get up and leave. I think Urban challenged them to be better than they were the day before and to work their butt off for what they wanted. And I don't know that really exists in college football in the same way anymore. And I think he's just told us that this is not where he wants to be. So I don't know if you guys know this or not. I lived next to the Reeves when I was little. Steven is my age. David's a couple years older, and Layla was my babysitter. And when John coached in Gainesville before they moved the family up there, they lived next door to us. And I'm still friends with David and Steven, and they are all still close with Lane. And I would be shocked if Lane did not come to Gainesville if he were offered the job. I think Lane would crawl. I mean, you said ride a scooter. I think he would crawl to Gainesville. I think, Urban used to talk about the mountaintop, the top of the mountain, and that he told his family that Florida was the top of the mountain when he came here. I think Florida is the top of the mountain for Lane Kiffin. And I think that he wants that job. I think he wanted that job before he was ready for that job. And I think he's learned a lot along the way. I don't think this is the same Lane Kiffin that was taking shots at Urban when Lane was at Tennessee. I don't think it's the same Lane that got left on the tarmac for USC. I think that he is, as Frank had said, now is the time. And in terms of when it happens, I do think if Florida loses this game in Texas A&M, it happens then. I think best case scenario for Florida, though, is they win one or even both of those games and get a little deeper into the season before they let him go. Because I think the closer you can get to having your plan formulated of what happens next, the better chance you have of retaining as much of your roster as possible. If you could let him go, the week before the Florida State game or after the Florida State game, if he makes it to the end of the season or something, and then you let him go and you can tell these guys, hey, listen, before you get in the portal, meet our next head coach. And there's only a week or two or, 3 or whatever before that can happen. I think you've got a lot better chance of retaining your roster. Now, is anybody managing this thinking about all of those things? I mean, I hope they are, but I don't know that anything we've seen play out the last few years would tell me that they are. But I think that there's a scenario where the longer you can drag this out, it might be more beneficial for your team.
All right. So those are all great points. And what you say makes a lot of sense. I want to make sure that people understand. I'm not saying that Urban says he's coming to Florida. I'm telling you, the people with the money
want him,
who I know really well, this one person who talks to all the money people, has said, we got the money, we got a war chest, make Urban say no. Yeah,
and I can see why they do that. I just think he does say no. But I
would hope he does for his own sake. But I'm just saying, the guy
that won the last 2 national titles, who still appears sharp as a tack, to come fix your problems. I can see why that is intriguing to those people. I just think it's unlikely, from Urban's end.
One more point before I get Frank to get me on the Jaguar train for a minute. What about the story, and I've not confirmed this, but it's been written by and said by a lot of people, that last year they were going to hire Lane and Strickland said no?
Well, I don't know that number one, I don't think the job wasn't open. I think Strickland made it clear last year, buddy, he was in Billy's corner. And by the way, I thought what he did last year worked. He said he gave Billy the mulligan. He used the mulligan well. He kept the job. So I don't think Scott ever got to who the coach would be like. That's my opinion. I don't think he ever got to who the coach would be next. I don't think that ever happened. So I don't think it was in play. Allie, one thing about how when you do it, one thing to keep in mind: NIL payments are done at the beginning and at the end of the season. So you get the guys with the big NIL money. They get a check at the beginning and they get a check at the end. And I just was told this today, working the story as best I could, that Virginia Tech, Arkansas, who else fired a coach? Somebody, Oklahoma State, all three of those, Virginia Tech, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, nobody left. Nobody has said they're going to the portal. Now they may go eventually. The portal's not open yet, but they're all staying put to get that last check, and they're due that last check. So I don't think the mass exodus is going to happen. We all know the rules. That the minute the coach is fired, you got 30 days to go. Nobody's going. Nobody's going because of that last NIL check. So
NIL did something right for us. This is fabulous.
Yeah. But I really think that, and I would be surprised if he gets to a fifth loss if he's still the football coach. That's and we'll see, because there's going to be a fifth loss, and then we'll see. So, the NIL payment goes at the beginning and at the end, and those guys are hanging around for that. If they leave, they don't get the last one. And so I don't think you're going to see a mass exodus at least to the end of the season for any of these
Great point, and even more reason for him to hang around for a few weeks. I've had people tell me I'll not go to another Florida game if he's the coach. I'm done. I won't send a nickel up there, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of pissed off Gator fans, and this is not like they're mad about losing a couple of games. They feel like they've lost a piece of them because the expectations were so big, and they put their heart and soul in it. Their whole fall was planned around their football season, the money they put out for it. And I get it. And it's a real blow to these people that they were led to believe that they're back on track, and they were not, obviously. So we'll see. But, when things do start changing, when you start winning, teams that hang around, Frank, they let him hang around. They hang around sometimes, they'll beat you. And I think it's the same thing with the coach. But the final thing is, and before we go switch over to the Jaguars real quick, is let's just do it because Frank's got to go too. What about this team? This team in Jacksonville, who all of a sudden thinks they're somebody. They should be 4-0. I heard your interview the other day with Shane, and they're playing so good. They got some good defensive players. They're fun to watch. Talk about your Jaguars. Put a little life in the old man, didn't they?
Yeah, they're tougher than they were. I think they weren't very physical last year. And in that league, if you're not physical, you lose. Look, they're 3-1 around. It doesn't matter how you get there. We haven't been 3-1 around here very often, buddy. I think they're more physical than they've been. They did a good job in free agency. Tony Baselli is the EVP, knew what he was doing. James Gladstone, the GM, and this guy Liam Cohen's a good coach, man.
Yeah, he must be.
He's got a little spurrier in him. He's got a little edge to him. He bows up, which I like. They went out and they play a zone defense now. They have a lot of guys watching the zone defense. You're watching the quarterback. You're not turning around and running. They're finding the ball. They've got 12 or 13 takeaways. They had 9 all last year. They've had more takeaways than they had all of last year. So the defense is pretty good. They're not great. They're winning close games. The NFL is all about the close game. If you watch NFL games, you turn on the NFL game in the middle of the fourth quarter and it's a 4-point game. That's the way the league is. I've called games now for 12 years in that league. You turn on the game in the fourth quarter, it's a 4-point game. But teams that learn how to win start believing they can win. That's one. It's only been 4 games, but I've called a lot of games, buddy, around here where we didn't think they were going to win. We thought before the game they're probably not going to win because they're playing the Patriots or the Chiefs or the Steelers or whoever. And once you've lost that confidence you can win that close game, you're probably not going to win it. This team kind of believes they're going to win those games. This team, you can kind of sense, the NFL is all about who makes the big play at the end of the game in the last 4 minutes. And I think this team believes it's going to do it. Trevor's played okay. He's got to play better. He hasn't been great. Travis Etienne's run the ball really well. He's 3rd in the league in rushing. The Jags are pretty good. We'll find out Monday night. The Chiefs come
Talk about that game. I'll let you get out of here. I know you got things to do. Appreciate you staying on. Allie and I got some Gator business to finish up. We're going to talk more about the upcoming game. Kevin Brockway is going to join us, talk about what this game was supposed to mean. And the quarterbacks will talk about Kansas City. They got their thing back together again now, and that should be a heck of a game.
Here's the best thing. the Jags have played so well that more people are talking about the game than whether or not Taylor Swift's coming. That's the big news around here. We're not talking about Taylor Swift. We're talking about the game. And Taylor Swift dominated the headlines all summer long around that game. So, look, the Chiefs are the standard, right? And you learn about yourself when you play the Chiefs. But you get them here. That place is going to be rocking. It's going to be a party atmosphere. We'll see. Well, the Jags are a 3-point underdog, not a 13-point underdog. So we'll see. I think I'm excited about it, buddy. I love coming on with you guys. I appreciate that. The news of the day isn't any of this, okay? The news of the day is that Layla Kiffin was Allie's babysitter. I don't know how that got me. So that may be a headline on my show tomorrow.
Here's the other part. You know who else her basketball friend was who lived next to her as well? Tell them about that. Guess who he is?
Greenberg, when he coached at USF, lived in my neighborhood. And so he would have the team over on Sunday night for dinner, and all the neighborhood kids would play basketball in his driveway. And it was it seems so normal because he was there for so long, and it's just how we kind of grew up. And then I ended up babysitting his kids. His daughter reached out to me today. Actually, she may be moving back to Tampa. And so was asking me about, we still live in the same area that we lived then. And so we were talking about it, but yeah, I've lived next to some interesting people over the years.
Yeah.
That's the source, buddy. Allie's just
great. She has the real, she has real stuff. We hadn't even mentioned Florida State plays Miami this weekend. Remember that used to matter? Think about it.
It did.
FSU 18.
That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I'll see how Herb Street's welcome. Thank you, Frank, and enjoy the game, and I'll be watching it. All right. Frank Frangie, voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, but still a Gator at heart. Thank you, Frank. All right, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our great sponsors that we have here, and we're going to check in with Kevin here Brockway soon. However, we're going to finish up our conversation about the game that was going to be, because we've talked about it all year. Oh, I can't wait to this game. And it was as big a game as ever been played. And well, I wouldn't even call it the Swamp, because before then, it was, the Swamp. Yeah. So that's amazing. So let me tell you about our friends at Meldon Law. Meldon Law is a good group of people, and they're not only fun to be around, they're also great business people. The guy who's at the head of it is a guy that you just can't help but like, because he likes to use the slogan, "We won't back down," because they don't back down, Meldon Law, and their whole deal is that they want you to know if you're a Gator and you want someone that you can trust and you want someone who's a good attorney. They got it all right there, and they also have some tremendous giveaways and things in their Facebook page. If you want hard to get tickets like gymnastics, and Allie will tell you how hard they are. You can go there and probably score some. So there's good people to have there in the community, and Meldon Law is now expanded to over 50 attorneys, and they're in 4 locations in North Central Florida, plus now down South Florida. So it's growing, and it's growing because they do their job well, and they're well-known attorneys, and they love the Gators. It all matters. Meldon Law. They won't back down. There's a QR code someplace around here. I'll put it up if I find it. And you know what QR codes are?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. All these things that we're learning about, I'm learning about, as Brenda's helping me with. All right, so as we wait for Kevin, talk to me about Florida not getting a new coach this year, how bad it might get if they don't, if we'd have insurrection. But if he won, sometimes that placates people. Look, I don't think anybody really wants to see Billy get fired. We never want a coach to get fired. But this is where he's just about asking for it with his stubborn attitude about calling plays. And his answer, you saw his answer about I've been calling plays, and that's why we got where we are. Yeah, where are we? It's stuck.
Yeah, and that bothered me because, and I know, first of all, it's not easy to stand in there and take the questions. And I also applaud Cam Parker for asking the question, because I do think that he shouldn't get softballs. He's making almost $9 million a year. There should be some accountability. And that is that's one of the responsibilities of the journalists that go into that room, is to ask the hard questions. And I thought it was a good question. And I know that when he says that's what got us here, he's meaning his family, the staff he brought along with him from Louisiana, himself. But Florida fans hear us as Florida. And, this is what got us where we are. Your play calling, 20-22, the 108th offense in college football right now, not a good place. And so it was a really poor choice of words for me. I don't think that he does great in press conferences. It's not his thing. And if you are winning, it doesn't matter that it's not your thing, but it starts to bite you in the butt, especially when you haven't earned the good graces that we've talked about over the years here, by letting the media really know who you are. But I think regardless of how this season ends up, he could win 7 in a row, which again, I think is very unlikely. He's still shown us who he is. He rips off 7-0, he still finishes 8-4. And that's not good enough for your very best team at the University of Florida. And I think he's shown us. I think 4 years is enough of a body of work that we then have to decide, is this who we want to be? Do we want to be a team that is 7-5 or 8-4 on their best seasons and maybe not bowl eligible on their worst? And I think the answer to that is no. I don't take any excitement or pride in calling for someone's job. It makes me uncomfortable. I would prefer we just win. But that's not where we are right now. And I think we have to be realistic about that. I'm still going to root for them to go out every single Saturday and win. But I don't like where we are as a program right now.
The question is, they're gone too far with the edge. Can it be fixed? And I've talked to Shane Matthews about this, who's been in favor of a change for a while. And I'm thinking, I don't buy green bananas. I don't want to have to go through this 5 more years. I don't have 100 years left to play to watch this. And I said, I'm not sure they can do it. He said, no, they can do it. He said, there are plenty of good players out there and you can get them. You can turn it around. And the evidence shows he's right. And look at what Kiffin's done at Ole Miss and the portal.
Shoot, look at what Clark Lee's done at Vanderbilt.
I know. That's amazing.
And Mississippi State. And, and that's, I think, what's more frustrating to Gator fans is we are told it takes time in an era where it's not taking time for anybody else. And I think that the stats will show you that if you can't get it done by year 3, you're probably not getting it done. I think we could probably look pretty much everywhere, and that would be the norm. If you're going to find success, you're going to find it by year 3. And there's very few exceptions to that rule. But I do think a change is warranted. And if you can do it in a way where you can hold on to as many of your guys as possible, because this is a great roster. This is a talented roster. You can just add a few pieces from, wherever your coach comes from or the transfer portal or whatever, you could win very quickly.
There's a lot that has gone wrong for a lot of teams. Georgia's lost 2 games. A lot of good, LSU lost 2 games. The quarterbacks we thought were going to be good aren't good. That's Byers having a horrible year by his standards. Things are, not up snuff a lot of places. And you'll look around the league and say, well, guess what?
Yeah.
And Steve Sarkisian is not setting the world on fire either.
Yeah.
So there's some of that going on too. Has the game changed that drastically? And
Georgia's only lost 1 game, by the way.
I thought they had lost 2.
Yeah. They had to beat Tennessee in overtime.
That's right. That's what my thinking was. Yes. Mississippi State should have beat Tennessee, by the way.
Yeah.
But the point is there's a lot of good teams that are losing. There's no real one dominant team right now, Allie, that I can think of. I mean, I'm impressed with what Alabama did.
Yeah.
But and Texas has gotten beat. I don't know.
I think there's more parity than there ever has been before, and that's probably NIL related. I think there's a lot of really great teams, and maybe not any elite teams right now.
Yeah, it's true. Who would you say that would be borderline elite? Do you think Alabama's all the way back?
well, I mean, they already lost to Florida State, and Florida State was 2-10 last year. So
but I think that's
hard to
their
say
ship will sail. Yeah.
that they're elite. I think they're very, very good. I think Ohio State's probably borderline elite. I think Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State probably belong in the same breath. I don't know that there's anybody else that belongs in that. Maybe you argue Oregon does. But I don't even know if you can use the word elite. I think really, really, really talented, really good, but there's just nobody that you watch that you're like, oh, they're not losing this season.
Yeah, man, back to the point about Billy, one of the problems they've had is firing him is they had nobody to call the plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I got part of me wants to say, well, maybe that's how he wanted it, you know?
Well, I was going to say that's kind of an indictment on him too, right? I mean, I've heard that same thing. I've heard from some of the people that I talk to that part of the struggle has been then what? Who takes over the rest of the season? But the fact that you don't have someone on your coaching staff, think about when Urban was winning championships. If Urban had to, let's say Urban was sick and somebody needed to fill in for him or as a head coach, Charlie Strong could have done it. Dan Mullen could have done it. Doc Holliday could have done it.
Steve Adazio did do it.
Steve Adazio could do it. Greg Madsen could do it. I mean, there's so many people on that staff who could have stepped up and filled that role if need be. So it's crazy to feel like there's are we going to ask somebody who was a offensive analyst 2 years ago to suddenly be the head coach? I mean, maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, overall, this is not what I would call an all-star staff. I mean, honestly, if I'm picking anybody, I'm letting Billy Gonzalez be the head coach because it's at least somebody with real SEC experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's bring a guy in who wrote a story today about saying what the game was supposed to be, how far out the mighty have fallen. Quarterback situation ain't what it used to be, Kevin Brockway, and we don't have the game that we thought. And maybe after the game, we'll have one less coach. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, right? Because Arch Manning and DJ Lagway was billed over the summer to be the big matchup. And yet you look at this game and Arch is 71 in QBR out of 135 D1 quarterbacks and DJ's 92. So on the surface, it doesn't look to be necessarily that big time high scoring matchup, but we will see. Billy was very optimistic today in his media availability, talking about the intensity in practice and how DJ has looked. And I think certainly the addition of Dallas Wilson also in practice has probably helped a little bit. You know, DJ having another potential big play, receiver to throw the ball to. So, we'll see how it transpires. But, the results so far for both quarterbacks. And I think for Arch too, in talking to some, people on the Texas side, probably has a little bit of happy feet, when he doesn't let plays develop, but he can be dangerous as a runner too. So Florida is going to have to be disciplined from that aspect and, kind of stay in the rush lanes and not allow him to, get too many big gains off scramble, similar to what, certainly Byron Brown did in the US, for USF.
I saw, Ellie, and I saw some comments from people, and Kevin, you were obviously there, when they were talking upbeat, and Billy was saying, although I don't think anything like this that Billy says really carries that much weight with the fans right now, but he did say, I think he said his best practice of the year today.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means, well, obviously we know he hadn't been right. He's been hurt physically. Are we expecting a big day out of him, out of number two? And is that crazy, or is it beginning to feel a little creepy? Like, Florida might, if their defense plays halfway decent, they might wind up winning this game. What do you think, Allie?
So I think this game feels more winnable to me than it felt in the beginning of August, which is weird because Florida hadn't lost 3 in a row, in the beginning of August. But I don't think, even though Texas is only 3-1 and their only loss is to Ohio State, who, is very, very, very good, I just don't think they've looked like we expected them to. And this game looks like it'll be low scoring, which means it does look like Florida will be in it. I think Florida's defense can play with anybody, and I don't think Texas's offense is good. I just also think Texas's defense is very, very good, and Florida has proven that they can't put 20 points on the board. So, the standard for me used to always be if the defense can hold the opponent to 21 points, we should win. I was always confident enough in Florida's offense that if the defense could hold them to 21, it was going to be a victory. And Florida just can't get there. Florida has held everybody to that. I mean, there's a garbage touchdown at the very end of the Miami game to make it 26, but it was a garbage touchdown. Florida's defense did their job. As far as can DJ Lagway put it together and have a big game, I think he's talented enough to. I don't know if I think the bye week is enough time to change anything. I mean, maybe he's a little bit healthier. I don't put any stock into these best practice or whatever else. I'm in the show me phase. I don't need to hear any more talking from him, but I don't know. I don't think that they will win, but I think they have a shot to win.
Kevin.
I picked 21-16 Florida, believe it or not. I have a feeling that they've got a good shot in this game in terms of the fact that, I know Texas has a pretty rugged defense for sure, but I just have a feeling, the travel, maybe Arch, the fact that, they had that big early test against Ohio State, but they've really played 3 straight, kind of cupcake non-conference games since then. So they're not coming in quite as battle tested as Florida is of late. I think that could potentially have an impact. And, first SEC road start for Eli. He faced a little bit of an atmosphere at Ohio State, but that didn't go well. So for Arch, excuse me. So I think that potentially has an impact on the game as well. So I think there's a shot here. I think there's a much better shot to get this one than to get maybe Texas A&M. But I think they're gonna have to play well in all 3 phases, show their A game. I'm sure you saw in the injury report too, Jacoby Jackson being out is interesting. So now you've got Jaden Baugh as the main back. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing that he gets more carries. Maybe we'll see Duke Clark. Maybe we'll see Katie Daniels a little bit as well in the run game. But Texas is another team, very similar to Miami, rugged up front, tough against the run. And, Florida's going to have to, figure out, certainly a third down because 0-13 against Miami was just pathetic and isn't going to cut it. And a lot of that has to do with first and second down too, and getting into some better third manageable situations.
Kevin, what's happened to this offensive line? Rob Sale coached in the NFL. He has a title offensive coordinator, which he is not. We were raving about this offensive line when the season started. It was ranked as the best in the conference, one of the best in the country. The right side has been paper tissue thin. They seem to be rotating 4 guards. They can't come up with it. They can't block, especially for great running backs like Jaden Ball, who just need a little bit of help. Maybe the play calling could help them out a little bit too. But what has happened, Kevin, to the offensive line?
Yeah, I think that right side is getting exposed right now, as you alluded to, and I think a lot of it has to do with Bryce Lovett. His adjustment to tackle has not gone well, and they put Caden Jones there. Cam Waits was out for the Miami game. It looks like per the injury report he's going to be back, which will give a little bit more depth there. But I do think that just in general, that right side, that bye week, we'll see if Bryce Lovett can develop. And Damian George Jr. has just been kind of pedestrian at right guard too. Not great, not terrible, but hasn't been necessarily a guy that's set the world on fire there too. So they've got some things to figure out on the right side of that offensive line. I mean, Slaughter's doing okay. Austin Barber is actually having a very good year at left tackle, but the right side has been problematic, and you would like to see them and cut down the penalties too. I mean, that's been the other issue too, is they've just been atrocious. The communication, they've talked about, maybe not being loud enough. I know, and facing some road environments. So coming back home to the swamp might help in that regard, but they've got to play tighter. You would think with 4 returning starters, they'd be a little better in that regard. That hasn't happened either.
Well, Allie, we've got to keep doing this for another, 10, 8, 9 weeks, whatever. And it's not going to be easy. And you're your fine podcast, Pick Inside the Gators, of course, is on several times a week. And this guy here has got to talk about it and write about it for a long time. If Florida gets trashed, I guess the storyline will be the next coach.
Mm-hmm.
And if Florida wins, it's like, okay, now what? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the storyline going to be, Allie, for us these next few months?
I do think Florida fans kind of just feel like we're circling the drain right now, just waiting for the inevitable to happen. If Florida beats Texas, I think fans will be excited, but I don't think it will. I think it's going to take a lot to turn the fan base back towards keeping Billy. Not only do I think obviously it's going to take 7 more wins, which is a huge ask in itself, but I think that I think fans kind of feel like Billy's shown us who he is. And now it's up to the University of Florida to decide if that's who we are. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And I love a good coaching search. That is always entertaining and fun. And the rumor mills go crazy and hope springs anew when you've got this, best staff in college football. And I just want there to be some excitement again. It stinks to not be, we get 12 Saturdays a year, and it stinks to be only 4 into them and already not that excited about it. We wait for 9 months for this. I need a little bit more time to be passionate about this sport that I love. It feels like a lot of the fun has been sucked out of it this year.
Kevin, there's another sport on campus that's going pretty good.
Oh yeah, no question. Basketball started out and some good reviews of the freshman Alex Lloyd. I think CJ Ingram had a good practice yesterday too. So that's certainly promising. Boogie Flan looks great. So I think there's a lot to be excited on that regard. Alex Condon, Micah Handlogden, has cut down his body fat percentage, and he looks like a guy, certainly coming off now a year and a half removed from that compound fracture surgery, looks like a guy that could potentially, be a really impact guy as a 6-man up front. Also, I mean, their front quarter is going to be one of the better ones in the country, buddy. But getting back to football, and you're talking about the coaching search if they lose to Texas A&M or Texas A&M. I just think that the one thing that you guys alluded to when I came on the show is like, who would be the interim? I think that's the thing. Do they trust someone on staff to be the interim coach who is not currently suspended, by the way? Because maybe that's the guy they trust, but then how can you sell that off a 3-game suspension to Jamar Jaluke? But it's like I said, I think that's another aspect of this whole situation, that if Florida loses to Texas, you got to wonder, if Billy will get at least a little bit more rope after that. I don't know, but I would think 1-5 going back for homecoming, it would be toxic to come back to the swamp to that.
All right, Kevin, real quick, Allie, go ahead. Your final comment.
I think as soon as 8 wins on the season isn't mathematically possible anymore, that's probably when you do it, because you do get into a situation where it's more toxic than helpful. Like, when Zook was fired, I think about the fact that he got to stay on and finished, and they ended up, carrying him off after he beat Bobby Bowden at Bobby Bowden Field the night it was dedicated. And that doesn't seem to happen in college football anymore. But he managed to not lose the locker room, which was the only reason that was possible. And I just don't see a scenario where that happens here.
Great stuff, Allie. Thank you so much. Kevin, thank you. Enjoy the game this weekend. Let's hope for something different to talk about next week. Besides who the next coach, maybe that will be the topic. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Allie. Thanks, Kevin. All right.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Remind you folks to read Kevin's story and the Gainesville Sun and his piece on the game that might have been, also, and check out Allie's podcast. All right, so I want to thank our sponsors, Titan MRI and Imaging. They started this quite some time ago, and now with Joe being back, they're doing it in fine style. Titan MRI Imaging has 3 locations to serve you. 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville, Park Avenue location, Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County. And Valdosta. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service. You can get an appointment at night if you work in the day. You can't be there. Get your CAT scan or your MRI wherever you need it. They will make you a night appointment. They accept insurance, or you can go to their convenient self-pay options. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasounds, also larger MRI machines. This is big for your patient comfort. No ERs, no hospitals. Coming soon to Ocala, Titan MRI Imaging. Make it your choice. Thank you for their sponsorship, and also Mellon Law. Thanks to our guests Frank Frangie and Allie Peak Wilbur and Kevin Brockway. Have a great night and a great weekend, and we'll be talking to you tomorrow night on a similar subject as we usually do right here on the Buddy Martin Show.